Hi, I'm BTSS. I love to read and write scary stories. My mom is one of my few loyal fans. She has a unique hobby. She likes to buy lottery tickets and predict the winning numbers for Powerball using everyday life symbols. For example, if she sees a cloud that looks like a 3, she'll pick 3 as one of the numbers for her next lottery ticket. She also has her own unique Taiwanese strategy that she has shared with me. For instance, she thinks a tree is the number 4, a dog is 9, a butterfly is 38, and so on. Don't ask me why. I really don't know why. Since I started uploading my videos, she has been watching them and using them to predict the winning numbers. One time, she shared her strategy with me, and not only did I think it made no sense, but I also found it quite amusing. I started to think, why not share her predicted numbers at the end of my stories? From now on, every now and then, I will pick one of my feature stories and show my mom the video before I upload it. I will ask her to predict the winning Powerball numbers and take notes of her deductions. Then, at the end of the story, I will share the numbers she picked, along with the date of the next drawing when she will buy a ticket with those numbers. Just a quick note, she rarely gets the right numbers, so I personally don't think she's very good at predicting. So please don't follow her picks and expect to make big money. Now let's begin today's story. There was a ramen restaurant that recently added a new dish to their menu. It was called the 14-legged giant isopod on top of a noodle soup. Some people thought it was strange, but others who liked trying new things were really excited about it. Soon, everyone in town was talking about this dish, and the restaurant became really popular. A chef named Peter heard about this and thought he could make a great giant isopod dish too. He came up with a delicious recipe for barbecue giant isopods and added it to his menu. The only problem was that he could only make one giant isopod dish each day, and the person who ordered it had to eat it alone in a special room at the back of the restaurant. At first, nobody wanted to try Peter's dish because they thought he had copied the idea from the ramen restaurant. Besides, there was only one boat in town that brought in giant isopods, and the owner of that boat said that Chef Peter had never ordered any. So, people believed that Chef Peter didn't really have the main ingredient needed to make the dish he claimed to prepare. Despite all this, Peter kept the dish on his menu. Then one day, an adventurous customer came to Chef Peter's restaurant and expressed a desire to try his barbecue giant isopod. Peter welcomed the customer into a hidden room at the back of the restaurant. 3 hours later, the customer emerged from the restaurant and declared that Chef Peter's barbecue giant isopod was the most delicious food he had ever tasted. People became increasingly curious and wanted to know more about the customer's dining experience at Peter's restaurant. The customer shared that Chef Peter had taken him to a cozy room with a comfortable couch. Peter informed him that it would take about an hour to prepare the dish, and while waiting, the customer was free to do anything he wanted in the room. He decided to watch TV and ended up falling asleep on the comfy couch. When he woke up, Peter presented him with a delicious barbecue giant isopod dish. The customer's positive feedback spread, and many people started making reservations with Chef Peter. Each person would enter the private room alone and, after 3 hours, come out delighted, declaring that the barbecue giant isopod was incredibly tasty. Word spread to an old and well-known mob boss about Chef Peter's popular dish, and he made a public announcement expressing his desire to visit the restaurant and try the barbecue giant isopod. However, when Peter received this request, he responded with an apology, explaining that he couldn't prepare the dish for the mob boss. Peter suggested that the boss could try other dishes on the menu, just not the barbecue giant Isopod. This made the mob boss very angry, as he felt disrespected by Chef Peter's refusal. Then, one day, the mob boss arrived at Peter's restaurant accompanied by several members of his gang. He confronted Chef Peter once again, demanding that he prepare the barbecue giant Isopod dish for him. Peter was frightened, but he explained once more that he couldn't fulfill the boss's request. This enraged the mob boss, and his henchmen pulled out guns, using them to threaten Chef Peter. Faced with no other choice, Chef Peter reluctantly agreed and led the mob boss to the back room of the restaurant. After 3 hours had passed, the mob boss emerged from the room with a wide grin on his face. He declared that the barbecue giant Isopod was the most delicious food he had ever tasted. After the mob boss returned home from the restaurant, he went to use the bathroom. Within seconds, he let out a terrifying scream from the bathroom. Later on, he was rushed to the hospital. People became curious and started asking about what had happened to the mob boss. The hospital informed them that the boss was in stable condition, but the details of his condition were kept confidential. The hospital staff were strictly prohibited from discussing the reason behind the boss's hospitalization. Meanwhile, the mob boss's organization issued a statement expressing their desire to see Chef Peter harmed for what he had supposedly done to their boss. The police also wanted to speak with Chef Peter. However, when both groups arrived at the restaurant, they discovered that Chef Peter had already fled and was nowhere to be found. A news reporter named Aaron was determined to uncover the truth behind this story. He started his investigation by visiting the hospital to find out what had happened to the mob boss. However, he couldn't get any answers as there were many of the boss's henchmen present, and they were not willing to share any information. In fact, one of them even warned Aaron not to invade people's privacy. Undeterred, Aaron decided to interview the owner of the fishing boat that caught giant isopods. The owner revealed that Chef Peter had never purchased giant isopods from him. Since he was the only fisherman in town who caught such creatures, he genuinely had no idea how or where Chef Peter obtained his giant isopods. Aaron then broke into Chef Peter's restaurant, which had been closed down following Chef Peter's departure. Aaron carefully searched every corner of the restaurant, including the backroom and the kitchen, but found nothing of significance. He meticulously checked each drawer, hoping to uncover a clue. It was then that Aaron stumbled upon a surprising discovery: a library card tucked away in the back of one of the drawers. The card had a serial number on it, piquing his curiosity. Intrigued by the mysterious serial number, Aaron headed to the library and approached the librarian for assistance. He inquired about the significance of the serial number on the card. To his surprise, the librarian informed Aaron that the serial number corresponded to a book in their collection. Eager to investigate further, the librarian led Aaron deep into the library, navigating through rows of towering bookshelves. Finally, they reached a section where several large and ancient books resided. The librarian carefully retrieved one of the largest books from the shelf and handed it to Aaron, revealing that it was the book associated with the serial number. The book was massive, heavy, and exuded an aura of antiquity. Its length alone measured half of Aaron's height. Sitting down in a quiet corner, Aaron began delving into the pages of this colossal book, hoping to uncover the secrets hidden within its ancient words. The book told the story of an ancient tribe known as the Giant Isopod Human Tribe. Its tribal members were giant isopods when they were young, living in the ocean water. However, when they reached adulthood, they underwent a remarkable transformation into human beings and left the ocean behind. They integrated into human society and lived the rest of their lives as humans. There was a significant challenge faced by the giant isopod human tribe. They lacked a reproductive system in their bodies, making it impossible for them to have offspring of their own. However, they discovered a unique and somewhat eerie method of reproduction. They possessed a special power that allowed them to transform the appendix of a regular human being beside them into a baby giant isopod. Throughout their lives, each giant isopod human would select a single regular human being as their target, and use their power to transform that person's appendix into a baby giant isopod. Once the transformation was complete, they would release the baby isopod into the ocean water. The book explained that the targeted individuals would not experience any harm or feel any pain during this process. When the special power was employed, the person's appendix would simply vanish into thin air, and a giant isopod would appear beside the person. A sudden realization struck Aaron as a thought crossed his mind: Chef Peter might be a giant isopod human. He started connecting the dots, thinking that the popularity of the ramen restaurant's giant isopod dish might have given Chef Peter a greedy idea. It seemed possible that he was using his special power to transform his customers' appendices into giant isopods. Afterwards, Chef Peter would barbecue them and serve them to the customers, all in an effort to make money and gain fame. As Aaron pondered the unsettling idea that customers had unknowingly been consuming giant isopods created from their own appendices, he felt a wave of nausea wash over him. Suddenly, a news story from 2 years ago flashed in his memory. The report stated that the infamous mob boss had suffered from an inflamed appendix and had undergone surgery to have it removed. It all started to make sense now. This revelation explained why Chef Peter had refused to prepare the barbecue giant isopod dish for the mob boss. The mob boss simply did not have an appendix anymore. The question that arose now was how Chef Peter managed to serve a giant isopod dish to the mob boss. Aaron kept reading the enormous book. In the final chapter, it revealed that the special power of adult giant isopod humans had the ability to transform not just one, but 2 human body parts into baby giant isopods. One of those body parts was the appendix, as mentioned before. However, the other body part had not been discussed in the earlier chapters because it was an extremely inhumane act rarely performed by adult giant isopod humans. That other body part was the male human's genital. As Aaron read this part, he felt a sense of disgust wash over him. He began to imagine the mob boss enjoying his barbecue giant isopod, feeling satisfied, and then returning home only to discover that his male body part was missing. It was a disturbing thought. Aaron finally understood why both he and the hospital wanted to keep the reason for the mob boss's admission a secret. It was just too embarrassing. He also grasped why the mob boss sought revenge against Chef Peter. Aaron couldn't help but think that if the mob boss hadn't insisted on trying Chef Peter's dish, such an embarrassing situation could have been avoided. While walking out of the library, Aaron placed his hand on his lower right stomach, wondering if his appendix was still intact. As for Chef Peter's fate, he actually did not manage to escape in time. Before the police and mobsters showed up, another group of individuals arrived and took him away. They were the elders of the giant isopod human tribe. They had discovered that Chef Peter had been misusing his special power for his own selfish desires, resulting in the death of many of their young ones. The elders had come to apprehend him and take him back to the ocean. Chef Peter was forever imprisoned beneath the ocean's depths. He later on gained fame as the mysterious chef in the ocean, becoming the subject of another intriguing tale. And that, my friends, is another story altogether. I will share that story in a future YouTube video. Now, it is time to predict the winning number for the Powerball. To play Powerball, we need to choose 5 main numbers between 1 and 69 and 1 Powerball number from 1 to 26. When deducing the winning numbers from my story, Mom likes to pick the 6 most important scenes from the story and predict one number from each scene. Before we begin, I want to let you all know that my mom didn't really enjoy this story because she found it more disgusting than scary. Anyway, the most important scene of the story is when a ramen restaurant introduced the giant Isopod ramen dish. This event actually took place recently in Taiwan, and it inspired me to write this story. My mom thought that a giant Isopod resembled a cockroach, which represents the number 8. Since the giant Isopod is much bigger than a cockroach, my mom gave it a +5. A noodle soup represents the number 28. Adding 8, 5, and 28 gives us a total of 41, which is for the Powerball number. However, 41 exceeds 26. When a number goes over, it goes back to 1. So, my mom subtracted 26 from 41 and arrived at 15, which is the Powerball number that my mom predicted. The second important scene in the story involved Chef Peter cooking a barbecue dish, and the customer having to dine alone in the back room of the restaurant. Barbecuing represents the number 10. When dining alone, there is only one person. My mom added 10 and 1, resulting in 11, which is the second number she predicted. The third important scene in the story involved the mob boss forcing Chef Peter to prepare the giant Isopod dish for him, which resulted in the boss being sent to the hospital after dining. The act of threatening represents the number 17, while an ambulance represents the number 25. When we add 17 and 25 together, we get 42, which was the third number my mom predicted. The fourth important scene in the story involved Aaron, the reporter, who was investigating the case and discovered the existence of an ancient tribe called the Giant Isopod Human Tribe. Earlier, we associated the number 13 with giant isopods. Human beings represent the number 20, and a reporter represents the number 7. My mom added 13, 20, and 7, resulting in 40, which was the fourth number she predicted. The fifth important scene in the story was the revelation that Chef Peter had been transforming customers' appendices into giant isopods and barbecuing them for consumption. My mom believed a special power was like a magic, which represents the number 66. Barbecue represents the number 10. Adding 66 and 10 gives us 76, which exceeds 69. When a number goes over, it goes back to 1. Therefore, my mom subtracted 69 from 76 and arrived at the number 7, which was the fifth number she predicted. The sixth important scene in the story revealed that the reason for the mob boss's hospitalization was the disappearance of his male body part, which had been transformed into a giant isopod and consumed by himself. My mom believed that the mob boss had lost something incredibly important to him. A mob boss can be seen as a leader of the bad guys, representing the number 25. A leader represents the number 31. Losing something means a minus, gaining something means a plus. Since it was something significant, my mom assigned it a -5. Eating represents the number 2. When we take 25 plus 31 minus 5 and plus 2, we get 53, which is the sixth number my mom predicted. Therefore, the winning numbers of Powerball that Mom predicted from this story were 7, 11, 40, 42, 53, and the Powerball number was 15. Mom already purchased the Powerball ticket with this set of number for the drawings on June 5th, June 7th, and June 10th of 2023. Hope she will win some money. Good luck to those of you who also purchased Powerball tickets.